Google winner, wellness, improve your health and your nutrition. Call 770-536-6600.
Welcome, everybody, to the Winter Wellness Podcast. I'm here today, your host, Mike Stewart, for Winter Wellness out in Gainesville, Georgia. And today's expert guest is the resident guest, Dr. Jack Winter, who is the chiropractor and kinesiologist that everybody in Gainesville should know about, and visit them in winterwellness.com. Jack told me today he's going to talk about a very serious but very important subject, that is depression. I've got friends who have suffered from depression, and it's terrible. I mean, it goes from very bad to just mild. I think we all get blue and down sometimes. So I got to hear, and I'm going to be muting the microphone here to listen to what Dr. Jack has to say about depression and how the folks at winterwellness.com can help the residents of Gainesville with depression. So, Dr. Jack, are you here?
Yes, Mike, I am. Good morning to you.
Well, this is a very serious subject, so I'm going to at least let you treat this with the respect and need that it has. So, Jack, tell us about what you guys know about depression and what can be done to help the folks be able to deal with such a serious subject.
Great, Mike. Thank you. Mike, you're right, by the way. This is a very serious subject, and it's getting worse and worse all the time. 20 years ago, Mike, we never heard people talk about depression. And a male would not ever tell me he was depressed. Now here we are 20 years later, and I hear it from probably 80-90% of the people either had severe mood swings or depression. So it's epidemic in our society and something that needs to be dealt with. So I'd like to talk about that today. And let's not get depressed when we talk about it, because we got solutions at the other end of this. So let's first of all just talk about depression, so we begin to understand maybe you don't have it, but maybe you do. We may understand what the signs and symptoms are. First of all, we'll find out there are people who have registered or talked about depression. There's 5.2 million people. We know it's much greater than that. We know it's in the tens of millions of people, especially with the pandemic going on right now. So here's a sign of depression. You have a low, you're moody for a long period of time. You would have some kind of aversion to activities. And it can affect the people with their thoughts. It affects their behavior, their motivation, their feelings, and a sense of well-being. So if those things are prominent with you right now, you might be headed toward or maybe into some depression at this moment. And it can be seen as sadness or difficulty in thinking or mental confusion, difficulty in concentration or focus, or significant increase and or decrease in your appetite. We're also seeing people sleeping a whole lot more than they have been in the past, or they can't sleep because they can't get the mental confusion out of their head. We're also seeing excessive fatigue, which is plaguing society right now, or prolonged moodiness that goes on for periods of time. So you also may have feelings of dejection or hopelessness or despair. We're also seeing people with melancholy, I just don't care anymore, just sitting in an unpassionate perspective. Or worse than that, we're seeing a lot of suicidal thoughts, which is, again, something we're going to talk about because that's becoming a prominent problem as well. And Mike, you mentioned this earlier, but this is true. We can have signs of depression can be temporary or they can be long-term. So long-term or prolonged depression can lead to withdrawal from friends and family. If you begin to see this over a period of time, we know that people are heading toward depression. Or there's a resistance in connecting with not only people, but activities. In other words, they get excessive indulgence in maybe drugs, recreational drugs, or prescription drugs, working on mental acuity or mental alertness. Also, we're seeing an increase in alcohol. It's a drug as well. And again, it's when we have that state of depression, we're trying to get rid of that state of depression, and alcohol seems to take that depression away for a short period of time. Of course, there's a lot of things that cause because of that activity with alcohol. And we're also seeing people with excessive food intake, especially when they have depressed as well, because depression takes them out of that depression state for a short period of time. Now, something I want to talk beyond that point, the depression, because long-term depression takes people toward a thing called suicide, which is right now they consider suicide a major national public health issue in the United States here because it's happening so prevalently. We're seeing actually 123 people a day are dying from suicides, and that's reported suicides. So we're talking more like 48,000 people a year that we know. And a lot of suicides, by the way, are not actually being registered because people don't want to think that my family or friend member died of a suicide. But it's going on, and it's going on big time. And it's getting to be an epidemic that's getting worse and not better. They're also not taking into account when you're talking about the number of suicides we hear about, the ones that are actually happening that we don't hear about, the unreported ones. And those are into the hundreds of thousands, if not into the millions as well. Beyond this point of doing suicidal things we use some kind of a weapon to do that, suicides can also be created when we think about cancers or hypertension or high blood pressure, diabetes, excessive weight gain or weight loss. Those are all kinds of things that actually people are doing unconsciously, doing unconscious suicides, which is probably a hard issue to understand, but that's what people do because they've given up and they're tired. And their system begins to break down as well. And sometimes consciously or unconsciously, they're committing an unnatural suicide. So, by the way, something just an interesting fact. This is hard to hear, but I'd like you to hear this because you need to understand this. Right now, between the ages of 15 and 24, suicides are the second leading cause of death in that group there. And downward age 10 to 14, it's the third leading cause of death in young people, suicides. That comes from depression first, and it motivates and escalates into depression, into suicides. So it's a problem. We want to talk also about these the depressional patterns are not necessarily getting better or going away. They're actually increasing, especially with our present condition of this condition we consider to be coronavirus pandemic. It's driving people into more fear and upsets, and depression and doubt is increasing that all the time. So we're into a state at this point in our society where we're increasing the probability of depression going into suicides as well. So that's the bad news. Okay, so we just want to know what's going on here. So let's look around and turn around to the good news. Okay, and the good news is this doesn't have to happen. It doesn't have to perpetuate itself, and it can be temporary, and we can come back to a natural state again. So there is hope, and there's light at the end of the tunnel. So I want to talk about what's possible here and how we're going to make this change. If you're listening to this podcast now, let's look at what we can do here and how we can make this come about for ourselves and our family as well. Remember from the beginning, we talked about this, and we talk about this continually in our podcast. Your body is a self-healer. You have the power to change your state of mind and your state of health anytime you choose to. So here's what we can do right now in the days and weeks to come to make this change come about. First of all, get clear that you have some depression going on, either it's affecting you physically or emotionally. So once you begin to stop and say, okay, I got that, good. Now we can decide to make a change. So step number 2, after you decide you have that depressional state or moodiness going on, decide you are willing to make a change. Then make the change. How you make the change? Number 1, look for someone or some method or procedure or process that will help you get the results that you want. As you begin to make that change and get that person or that procedure you're going to work with, be thoughtful. Is it ethical and moral? Does it sound? Does it have natural possibilities about it? In other words, the food and the people you're talking to and the activities you're doing have a natural way about them that actually harmonize with you. Feels good about that. You feel comfortable when you do that activity. Also, whatever procedure or process you pick up, see if it's consistent. The people that you see working with that, have they embraced it? Are they making the changes? Are they getting successful? If they do, get in that process with them. Remember, it's a day-to-day process as you work this process through. Then also make sure it's something you can stick with. Something that, again, it feels right with you, that you're willing to push yourself into a little further position or pattern to make that life change come about for you. Next, make sure you're willing to make the choices and changes you have to see that others are doing, that you can do the same way. And then as you go along with this, you definitely want to see a difference, and you want to know that you're being successful. And your process and procedure, or the person you're working with, is showing you and helping you see those markers along the way you've improved. We've got to have those markers, because along the way we can get involved in this process and not know we're getting better. So set your procedures properly that you can see I got success here. I started seeing myself smiling. I started seeing myself reach out, started seeing myself interact with other people. You start watching those markers come along the way, you know the procedure is right. Also, I want to kind of introduce you to what we do in the office so you can begin to start our process. Again, number one is understand you can make the change. Your body is capable and wants to be healthy, and it's inborn in you that your system will do this. So understand that that's always behind you, and you're ace in the hole. Your body wants to get healthy. Number one thing we do beyond that point is to clarify. Clarify that you want to make a change. Then you set a new focus. Number two, what we do with you is I have you understand that the power of change is within you. It's possible, and once you decide to make the change, that process now begins that process to happen because you have a focal point, and you'll pull yourself to that focal point. Next thing we do in the office, we evaluate where you are presently, physically, emotionally, and nutritionally. You want to know where you're at, because if you know where you're at, we can now begin to make changes to see that we make the changes to succeed where we want to go from here. Then number four is, since we're in our office, we do a thing called kinesiology. What is kinesiology? It's actually an advanced form of chiropractic. We use nutritional support, and when we begin to release stress and stress points in your body is what we want to begin to do. And the idea of what we do in our office, we want to be open up openings in our body and access body parts and systems that now can be in harmony and flow. We want you to be at peace. We want you to be comfortable. Then we take the kinesiology, which is actually using acupressure, chiropractic, cold lasers, and all these things to bring the system back in that state of harmony and flow again. Bring you back to your natural state, which is joy again, by the way. Then number five, what we do with you is look at your diet. We want to look at natural and organic foods if we can, obviously clean water. We want you to learn to become friends with these new aspects of your life, that you now have a life support system with good food and natural functions and natural herbs and things in your body and the clean water. This becomes a natural form of life. You begin this process. You will find as you do this, your body chemistry is going to change. As it changes not only your chemistry in your body, how you feel, it changes your emotional mindset as well, your moods as well. Then we also talk in our office about whole food supplements and vitamins. And they're useful for us because what they're doing is helping those deficient portions of your systems that need help and support to get that support they need. And we're talking hormonal balances, we're talking thyroid, we're talking adrenals, we're talking the function of the brain, the pineal, hypothalamus. We want those systems also to function well, and nutrition supports that as well. So nutrition becomes an important aspect of getting back to a normal state of function. And then number 6, we're going to talk about identifying emotional stresses and upsets. This is very important. This does two things with us. If we can sit down and get out of our head what we're thinking, this begins to open up and begin to defrag some of those emotional stresses we have. That's talking to somebody else. If you have a relationship with your creator, you might have a conversation with him, but you can begin to get out of your head what you're thinking and what you're feeling and put them down on paper. When you get them down on paper, what you will find is, geez, I don't have all this stuff running through my head, this overwhelm. Now I see what my problems are, and now I can see a direct avenue how I can solve those. So once we have them down on paper, and we're going to begin to list those stresses and frustrations and fears that you have, and I'm going to give you a technique to take care of the emotional stresses and take the energy off them. We want to diffuse that energy. And here's what you're going to find. When you're stressed out, you have a lot of energy about that stress. If we take that emotional stress energy off, now those situations become less and less to the point they're just statements. They're not emotional stresses. So we want to diffuse those energies. And then number 7, we'll talk to you about what would you like in the future? What would your future look like if that stress wasn't here? This is important because you're going to begin now to say, oh, I have a purpose and reason for getting up in the morning and a reason to see what my future is going to look like. In very specific terms, we're going to help you do that. We want to focus on what we have tendencies to become. This becomes a new reality. We know if we begin this process, it's going to begin to make us look forward to what we have as we eliminate the things that are keeping us from getting there. Now, I know this is a lot of information, but what I want to bring you back to is this is not an overnight process. This is a day-to-day process. As we begin to look at what we want to go to or where we want to go here, we begin to work these processes one day at a time. If we will do that and anticipate from the beginning, it's going to take a process to do this. You'll continue to get your success with your markers and know I'm improving and getting better, and we'll come back out of this state and come back to the joy that life once gave to us. And once you realize, by the way, as you go through this process, you are a valuable person. You have a gift to give, not only to the people around you, but to humanity in general. And this journey becomes fun again, and life is worth living again. And that's where we're heading with this one. You're capable and you're desirable to have you be in this position in your life. It's time for this to happen. So, as you're listening to this podcast, I invite you to call the number that Mike is going to give you at the end here. I also would invite you to go to Winner Wellness website. It's WINNER Wellness, WELLNESS website, and join our team. We'd love to give you the opportunity to get the hope and life and joy back in your life again for brighter and better future. We look forward for that to happen for you and with you.
Jack, this is just so important information, so heartfelt, so real. And so all you have to do, folks, is call 770-536-6600. That's 770-536-6600. And just talk to the folks, Jack and Jean Winner at Winner Wellness there in Gainesville, Georgia. And I know that they can make a difference in your well-being and your health, and especially dealing with this serious problem, depression, because untreated and left alone and not reaching out and getting healthy alternative opportunities to make yourself better is just a missed opportunity. So we don't want to hear about anything horrible happen to you or your family members. So Jack, thank you again for such amazing content, amazing insight. It's amazing how much information you know, and my job is just to make you think about it and get it recorded so that people can listen to it over and over again. Thanks again. Thanks for a great podcast today. Folks, be sure to share this podcast. We are in Apple, Spotify, on Android. We're in Google. If you Google Winter Wellness Podcast in any of those directories, especially the Apple, Android, and Spotify, you can hear the Winter Wellness Podcast with Jack and Jean Winter, and they're going to be covering all kinds of subjects. So subscribe, share it with your friends, listen to it in YouTube, on social media, and we'll see you next time on the Winter Wellness Podcast.
Google Winter Wellness. Improve your health and your nutrition. Call 770-536-6600.
Welcome to Winter Wellness. Dr. Jack Winter specializes in chiropractic, applied kinesiology, emotional stress release, muscle with ligament tears, allergy elimination, circulatory impediment, and nerve pressure. Dr. Winter is an acknowledged leader in both the understanding and treatment of almost all health-related conditions. Uniquely, he accomplishes this without the use of drugs and surgery. With over 30 years of experience, he continues to incorporate the best and innovative ideas and techniques for one single purpose: to enhance your body's ability to heal and regenerate itself. Jean Winter, CCNND, is a specialist in nutrition counseling, hormonal imbalances, weight management, allergies, and custom nutrition programs. A certified clinical nutritionist since 1998, individually designed nutrition and weight loss programs is her specialty, with nutrition coaching, custom cleanses, herb, vitamin supplements, saliva hormone testing, and natural bioidentical hormones. Weight management, nutrition coach, allergies, food intolerances, and digestive challenges. Jack and Jean Winter are the folks to help you improve your life at Winter Wellness.
Google Winter Wellness. Improve your health and your nutrition. Call 770-536-6600.